So I was bizarre. My family was bizarre. My culture was bizarre. Well-behaved women seldom make history.
Yep.
Basically reading this unconscious language of nonverbal communication.
Right.
So someone who can be like authentically themselves and very happy, that to me is like my ideal version of strength. When you live on your own and having that solidarity and like being able to make choices unencumbered by others, that I think is necessary to anyone's growth. And most of us never get that.
Yep. Welcome to another episode of Portraits of Strength, a podcast where we dive into real stories about resilience, drive, and human spirit. I'm your host, Harry, the anecdotist, and today's guest is a person who's at a fascinating intersection between science, strategy, and storytelling, Dr. Chelsea Shields. Dr. Chelsea is an anthropologist, strategist, a TED Fellow, and a 3-time TED speaker. With a dual degree in biological and cultural anthropology, Dr. Chelsea has built a career at the intersection of science, strategy, and helping companies, harness research, emotion, and non-verbal communications to shape powerful brands and messages. So it's my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Chelsea to this episode of Portraits of Strength. Welcome.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I love you. I love what you're looking like today.
Thank you.
I read all the signals, so you're just shining as like a very authentic, very self-assured version of you, and I'm just loving seeing it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So let's get started with, I want to know how your childhood was, how you were as a kid, and how you grew up.
So I was bizarre. My family was bizarre. My culture was bizarre. I have a book that's not finished. I have a lot that are unfinished, but the beginning talks about how psychology students go into psychology because they need therapy. And I said I went into anthropology because I needed cultural therapy. But like anything that's, can be toxic or not a good match for you, it's because it has a lot of good and a lot of bad. It's not just that it was bad. If it's all bad, you can move on.
Right.
But when it's layered with so much good, it's hard to remove yourself from situations that may or may not align with your authenticity.
It's so difficult to kind of like separate out the good with the bad because everything comes together, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, my upbringing was like this, and it's very anthropologically based, but it's this drive to find authenticity and belonging at the same time, which is one of the most deep and innate human needs and wants that is universal across cultures and throughout time. And it's really hard to find because often we have to not be authentic in order to get approval and to belong and to be the good girl and to get the straight A's and to please your parents and your pastors and your boyfriends and you're losing authenticity. It's getting chipped away every time you're assimilating in order to belong. Same thing as someone who's migrating or an immigrant. Yeah. In order to now belong, which is now good, I have to chip away all these things that make me authentic to blend in. Yeah. And so that's a journey everyone takes. And I was raised in like a huge Mormon family that were pioneers for generations. They were all Mormon. My dad and my grandfather got PhDs, and it was all about like Mormon religion.
Oh, wow.
And my dad's job was teaching Mormonism around the country. And so we moved a lot, and we had 8 kids, and 7 out of the 8 have ADHD.
Oh my God. Okay.
So life was always chaotic. My poor mom, my dad and mom got married. They were, everyone followed the rules.
Right.
You get married, you really young after your mission, and then you have 7 or 8 kids. And he has 9 brothers. My grandfather had 16 brothers. That's one side of my family. And they all had 7 or 8 kids. So just this huge, ginormous Mormon family, which I would describe as like The Sopranos meets Leave It to Beaver.
Oh my God.
They were so pure and so good. And like no one swore, no one drank, and everyone wore garments. And like we kept all the Mormon rules. And Grandpa had to approve of who you dated. And they had to be in good standing with the church. And even if you babysat, you had to pay part of that to tithing. And even if I got a scholarship, if I was a good Mormon, I paid it to tithing, So it was just we read scriptures at 6 a.m. So you couldn't be authentic in that, because I had questions very young. I had questions about race. I had questions about gender. I had questions about sex. I had questions about things very young. And it was like just having the curiosity, the question like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or even violence. The whole Book of Mormon is full of these violent stories that as a little kid, you're like, I'm reading the scriptures. That's the only exciting part, right? Because it's all this like gibberish you don't understand when you're young, but you do it every day for hours.
Yeah.
And they have these wild, violent stories, of our hero prophet cutting off someone's head and taking on their robe and pretending he was him and taking his gold. And do you know what I mean? And like the good guys cutting off the arms of other guys and bringing them back to show how good they were to the king. Things like this where you're just like, wait, isn't that bad?
Yeah.
Like blatant contradictions. I know that's a stupid example, but my brain was just always in this cognitive dissonance where like we say we're the good people, but we're hurting gays, or we're being racist.
Yeah.
Or we've been racist, or we're currently being sexist. How are we the good guys?
Yeah.
And like, even though I love the community, I love the people, I love the programs, I lived all over the world. There was always a Mormon group. They would help you move. They would feed you. They'd help you find friends. Like, it was like the greatest, when I believed, it was the greatest social life you could ever wish for.
Yeah.
So all of that was real. All those hormones were real. All those relationships were real. But then there was cognitive dissonance in, wait, everyone I know believes this. I've been taught this for 30 years. I've followed every rule for 30 years, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's basically kind of my childhood. The black sheep of a wonderful, wonderful, sweet, kind of Mormon family.
I don't know if I agree with the word the black sheep over there, because I totally believe that strong women they're not the women who are meek or who hacks up the status quo, right? Yeah. Questioning the status quo always kind of makes us the difficult one, if you will, So I don't agree with the word black sheep over there, but I can see your point, because it's very similar to Indian or Hindu, society as such, right? Like, to your point, it's very patriarchal. It's very, women are, yes, they're given the freedom, but only within the certain restrictions.
Right.
So I totally can relate to that.
Well, and on that note, I love that you paused there, because I love that you stopped there, because I was lucky enough during this journey to meet a lot of other like Mormon feminists. I'm so glad you said that, because I wanted to pause here to tell you, like, one of the good sides was had these 200 to 10,000 Mormon feminist women all across the spectrum, like radical to like way believing, but like, yeah, women used to have more autonomy and rights, and we should have. And this is at a time, and this was, I think, back in 2013 when we couldn't even pray in like the general conferences, which is crazy. Now we can. We protested and got it. But I met all of these incredible women, and one of them in Boston was Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, who always told us, it's never too late. Life is really long. She had 5 kids. She was in her 40s. Once they all went back to school, she went and got her PhD. and ended up winning a Pulitzer Prize for The Midwife's Tale. And she wrote some other articles, and one of her most famous quotes is, "Well-behaved women seldom make history."
Yep.
So she wrote that quote. I'm getting like chills. She wrote that quote. We would go to all these retreats. The younger version, all of us youngies were doing this blog, this feminist blog. We revitalized this old journal that Mormon women used to write and own, and then it got taken over and quit by the men. So we revitalized it. The young girls did a blog. The older women, we ran these retreats, and we all kind of reinvigorated a cultural moment.
Nice.
And the church thought it was just these like random pop-ups, but behind the scenes, a small handful of women, we strategized this whole plan to like hit all we wanted was like better equality for women now. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, and it was simple things. We had like a list of 100, like put baby changing tables in the men's rooms too. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Like it was like, don't call two people go on a mission. My parents, for example, are on this mission. And when they're called mission presidents, he's a mission president and she's a sister.
Yeah.
Because she can't be at the same rank, but she's doing just as much as him. Why can't she be given some honor?
Yeah.
You know? And there's just like these tiny things, like the young men's budgets are really huge and the young women's budgets are tiny. Like, why? Like just dumb discrepancies. Like, why can't we pray? Like, why, you know? So it was just these tiny, tiny things that we were still believing. We still followed every rule. We had our recommends, which means you're worthy. Anyway, long story short, and we just hit it at every level. So we helped this woman write a book that was published by the church and promoted about women at church and how we support women. Then we had this like moderate group, and we like did Ask the Feminist columnist, and we did these organizations, like created a book full of quotes for women, because in the 2010 curriculum, there was not one quote from one woman in any class that the LDS church taught. So we created an addendum and like gave it out. It's like the most innocent, like,
small things.
Yeah,
but
exactly. So we got so much pushback for the most innocent things that we realized like, we have to go extreme for the middle to move. And so there was this hotshot named Kate Kelly, who just had like the verve and the personality, and she was just rebellious. And so we decided, let's all help strategize this movement too. And it caused quite a stir because it was about giving women the power, which is the priesthood. At different times of our history, women have had it at different rituals. There's a part of it we get, but like, and I never really felt when I was a believing member, I wanted that or needed that. I did not like the discrepancy, but it was also one of those subjects you couldn't even talk about.
Wow.
Like in any home, in any religion, any class I've ever been in, you're not even allowed to ask about it.
Okay.
So our goal in helping her strategize and creating this program, and we did protests. We got on the, Washington Times. We changed all of these policies. About 86 of the 100 are changed now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
It
was amazing. So this group of women that I was a part of, that we were inspired by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich and that quote.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I messed up her name.
No.
We were inspired by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich and that quote.
Wow.
We created this cultural movement and we created change.
Nice.
And as like an anthropologist and a strategist, like being able to like implement things, like we actually, like I hired my own police officers, we implemented a march, and I had to be in charge of all these strategies, and actually like watching that take place, organizing it, and now seeing the change, I would say is probably one of the most rewarding things that I've ever experienced.
That's awesome.
And we did it.
Yeah.
And what's sad is a lot of people got excommunicated, got divorced. I lost my job. I was fired immediately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was going to teach at BYU. I was so excited because I was really going to teach biological anthropology, which I love, which is human evolution. And no one realizes BYU has an incredible biology department. That's where I learned about human evolution.
Right.
It's just kind of a hush-hush there. But I was like, yay, I finally get to teach this at my alma mater. I was still following all the rules. I mean, obviously I was questioning things. But the second my involvement was found out, they said, don't even come to campus.
Ouch.
Yeah.
And
they made the secretary do it, who's known me since I was an undergrad.
Oh, man. That must have been hard.
It was hard. So there was sacrifices along the way. But I think that, like, we were talking about the good and the bad. It's like, whoa, it's really hard to leave your culture of origin. And it takes a lot of strength, and there's a lot of pain and a lot of loss and ostracism and self-doubt. And, and I think that everyone has to go through that in order to truly be on the other side, which is where you find that belonging and that authenticity.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I rambled a little bit.
No. This is what the conversation is about, right? Like those stories and those moments where you kind of like find yourself or find the strength to kind of do it. So you've mentioned Laurel Thatcher. Who other or what were the biggest influences in your life that gave you the courage to question? Or
I had some pretty strong female influences.
Okay.
So my grandmother was not a Mormon and converted after she lost one of her children after childbirth. And there's a promise in Mormonism that you can be together as a family again. And so she never had the traditional mind. So that side of the family wasn't as rigid as the other. They could question
This is your
things.
mom's
My
mom?
mom's side.
Okay.
So my mom always kind of questioned things. She was always on the side of social justice. She made us watch Roots when we were kids.
Okay.
So she really taught us my dad taught us like scripturally right and wrong. My mom kind of taught us socially right and wrong. Like I remember the day that Christy Yamaguchi won a gold medal, and we were all watching, we were all celebrating, and my mom just made a comment of, it's so sad that like she'll probably get like a couple $100,000 in sponsorships, whereas someone like Shannon Miller will get like millions and millions. And I was like, well, why? She won the gold medal.
Yeah.
She's like, well, this country's racist, and white heroes and gold medalists get paid more for sponsorships than people of color. And I was like, that was the first time I realized like the discrepancy in an all white family, all white town. We're living in Tooele, Utah.
Yeah.
For her to have that awareness and like teach it,
that's amazing.
like was amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously she follows every Mormon rule and all that stuff. So we also clash on other things, but at the core, they are moral people. And so I was really raised in a place of like, do the right, treat others well, be Christ-like. As much as my grandfather was like the Tony Soprano of the rules, like enforcer, my dad's a middle child of 9. He's a people pleaser. If there's conflict, he like, he like walks out of the room. I'm a little like him. I'm like, I don't want conflict. Can we all have fun and laugh,
Right.
And so he's more of like the good side of religion, which is the spirit of the law and love and be good to everyone. And like, he's the only person I know who like feeds the homeless on Thanksgiving and like invites, strangers who didn't have a place to go to our Christmas dinners. And like, he's the only person I know who like practices every single day, like how to be a good person. He would take us to like crack houses and we'd have to clean it out because the woman wanted to get clean and was in rehab, but she had to get out of the place or her landlord would charge. And so as a family, we're like cleaning up piss and like needles and like, we were literally I was more forced. I'm not as good as him. I don't do as much as I want to now, but he really, walked the walk. And I think my mom really thought outside the box. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you have a dual PhD in biological and cultural anthropology. So what drew you to these subjects? I know you said you loved learning biological evolution when you were an undergrad, but what is it about these subjects that actually drew you in?
It's a great question. So I think being kind of in this weird culture and living around, like we lived in California, we lived in Portland, Oregon, and I would notice how we were different. We dressed different, we acted different, we had different rules, we looked different, we talked different. When we would go out as a family, people would treat us weird. I just started noticing that there was this hidden like social and cultural language that like we were never taught. And almost like we're Amish and we're like in this new world. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how clear of a picture it was to me of like, I came
especially living outside Utah, right?
I came from Tooele, Utah, where we're wearing like these homemade, units, they called them, that were stretchy 80s clothes with cummerbunds that you can mix and match. And a side ponytail in the 80s with the bangs.
Yeah.
To Kurt Cobain, Portland, Multnomah County, very diverse because we had 6 kids and we couldn't afford a big place.
Right.
And, grunge era. It was the Adidas around, shoes with the big puffy jacket and the No Fear and the black lipstick and the grunge and I'm like weird Barbie over here. And I'm like, whoa, I need to learn a new language fast or I'm going to be the nerd, which, it was almost like every subject I could learn really fast. This was the subject of like applied social science. I have to learn how to be a part of this culture fast. And so every time we moved, it felt like that. I was adjusting again. I was assimilating. I was figuring out the rules. And I didn't know there was like a science of this. I didn't know there was the study of culture.
Right.
And so when I discovered it in undergrad, I like never looked back. I did undergrad, I did master's, I did my cultural anthropology PhD. And along the way, I had opportunities to do all of my field work, 5 different trips across a decade with Ashanti indigenous healers. And so I had this really long-term relationship with them.
So in Africa, right?
In Africa, West Africa and Ghana. And so I basically lived about 200 miles away from any like biomedical clinics, biomedical interventions. And so how are people treating, a wound, a gangrenous foot, an accident, a broken bone, a persistent ache that won't go away, abortion, barrenness, impotence? Like, how are they curing the things that all humans face?
Yeah.
With what's available. And so that's basically the study of medical anthropology. And that's, so culturally I was going to say, like, well, when do you go to this doctor versus this doctor? How do you treat this illness?
Yeah.
So I spent every day with like a different healer. So one would be like a real doctor on rounds, but he only has like Tylenol for pain. Like, he doesn't really have any resources and the power goes out half the time.
Yeah.
So it's really limited.
Yeah.
And then I would, trail an indigenous healer who uses, spirit possession of the traditional gods and fights witchcraft that is real. Or they would go to what they call like a Muslim malam who would use this sort of written divination. Or they would go to like a fetish priest who would use like, cowrie shells. And it just was a bunch of different types. And in those types, there were some that were more trusted than others. So it's understanding the culture of like medicine in the land where there's not a lot available. And as I'm doing it, I got very interested in my medical and biological anthropology classes and this concept of the placebo effect. So I joined this little seminar of researchers on the placebo effect, which was headed by Harvard Medical School's placebo director. His name's Ted Kapchuk. He's wonderful. And it was just a small group, and we were all exploring placebos from our various disciplines. So there were medical doctors who were like doing real Reiki and fake Reiki and like testing the difference. And they were really trying to find how placebos work in more, not just in a medical trial that's double blind. Like, can we study it in these other more behavioral or therapeutic relationship settings or culturally laden settings? So I was the only one going out to Africa and like taking biomedical measurements. And so it was a really cool group. And that really, and even talking to my healers, as I came up with my findings for my cultural anthropology dissertation, it was all about the social healing aspect of healing, that in America, it's like you fix it yourself, you're the problem, it's your body. But in other cultures, it's like if someone's hurt, everyone is going to struggle because we're so interconnected.
Yeah.
And so we got to help them heal. And so it was a lot about that and stress and all the stuff and emotional modulation and just the things that we could talk about in cultural anthropology to kind of explain what was happening in these ritual ceremonies, even though there was no overt pharmacological intervention, right?
Right.
And then my healers that I would talk to regularly said, that's not what's happening.
Oh.
They said, you've seen me heal people.
Yeah.
You've seen infections go away.
Yeah.
You've seen me stab myself and not bleed. You've seen me pour sand into my eye and like, walk around with no itching. You've seen me. He just explained all these miraculous things. And I did see miraculous things, things I could not explain with science. And, well, at least like with what I knew so far. And there were biological changes. And he's like, you're neglecting all of the physical healing that actually occurs that we're doing. I mean, obviously this was an extended conversation, and it was just like he's right. But I don't have that background.
Yeah.
And so that's when I went back and did all the coursework and all the testing and the approvals for the biological anthropology.
Oh.
And then my final dissertation had to have 2 committees, both sides, and it had to be both. So it was pretty long. But it was really undertaking the idea of what are some of the psychological, social, and cultural placebo effects that are interacting in every interaction, in every context, and every social group that you're in. There's hundreds of thousands of things that are changing your hormones, changing your perception, making you afraid, making you joyful. And that's what I wanted to study.
Oh, wow.
I fell in love.
That's amazing. What were the challenges you faced during your academic years, whether it was because you were a woman or because you're a white woman coming from a Mormon background, or anything else that could have been attributed, right? Like, what were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
I'm glad you said that. I would say a lot of challenges as a woman being a Mormon. And so at BYU, I faced that a lot. Like, I had a professor doing some shady things in the field in Africa. I would run programs where I would take professors and students for the whole summer. He would come for a couple weeks and he was trying to like get this job and he was like affecting this other person's job. And I was like, this isn't right. And I just kind of went home and talked to him and like was just like, this isn't right. This isn't ethical.
Yeah.
And he just lashed out at me, like really tried to get back at me in any way he could, including like revoking letters of recommendation he'd already sent.
Ouch.
Really ruining me as like a young college girl trying to
ruin your future.
Trying to stand up for what was right. And meanwhile, at 21, running programs that grown men can't do all by myself, getting no credit because he was just kind of taking credit for my work. But I was I was like, I get 3 months paid to do research. I'll do whatever you ask me.
Yeah.
So getting really taken advantage of and put in scary situations by this person who was unethical, and then no one defended me. No one backed me up. No one even rewrote those schools and said, hey, this guy's a little off. Like, and I was their like #1 anthropology student. I won this big award, and like not one person even like tried to help. And I just felt like, and they kept him. I mean, he got fired later and whatever. People show their true colors, but it was one of those moments where I felt completely like, if I were a man who was a top student, who was going to go to graduate school, who had straight A's, who had this great record, and I was coming to you, they would have taken me seriously.
Yeah.
And I felt that way in the job hiring process too. I actually had one professor and I was like, it's worth it if I help 10 women, But he said, we're glad that you're here. You're tough. Like, you can handle the sexism. Instead of like other women, he's like, other women can't handle it. And it was like an admission that like it's very sexist here, but like you're tough enough to handle it. And like other women haven't worked because they were just too sensitive.
Ouch. I mean, the fact that they don't want to fix the structural infrastructure where sexism is actually happening versus saying that you can actually handle it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I got a reward. I had the dream life. I got to go to Boston University. And it was the first time I felt equality, true gender equality.
That's amazing.
And it was like, I never wanted to leave. I didn't. I went to school for way too long. I was like, I just want to stay here. I loved it. I found scholarships. I was an RA. I figured out a way to hustle to get everything paid for.
Yeah.
And just got to take these wonderful classes from these wonderful people. And what it came down to was this one brilliant man, I have to give him credit, Dr. James Pritchett, who saw all my grades and all my projects. He saw my glowing letter of recommendations, and then he saw this rebuttal recommendation from this
So he saw both.
And he's like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That you said all these things, and then now you're...
Yeah.
So we called him.
Oh.
He's the only one at any university I applied to actually call him, and he explained his side, and he basically told on himself. So James Pritchett called me up, offered me a full ride.
Wow.
As part of this scholarship with the International Studies program, and said, I saw this young, white girl standing up for the indigenous population in the face of this like white man who's controlling everything and kind of blaming everyone. And I realized, all the letter of recommendations are still valid, and that's the type of person I want in this program.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is awesome. So continuing on the same theme, how do you explain the connection, between placebos, branding, and customer behavior to someone who is not in the anthropology field?
Okay. Oh, this is a challenge, but a good one. I love this question. You just made my brain fire. I love it. I would say it like this. When we design a product, we call the layer that humans actually interact with, like the customer layer or the presentation layer, right? So imagine the world like that. Everything you can see is that presentation layer. It's what we can observe.
Yeah.
Okay? And every website you go to, every product you hold, every picture you look at, everything you scroll on, every person who's speaking to you, everything you're watching is giving off all of those. There's a presentation layer. You're seeing that and you're judging it. Just like you would judge someone's body language when they're speaking, just like you would judge a first date on like how many buttons were undone,
Yeah.
Just like you would judge, a boss on how nervous they were. We're always basically reading this unconscious language of nonverbal communication.
Right.
And so often people are building brands. They're, creating products. They're speaking to large audiences, having never learned that language. So to me, it's like learning the code behind the presentation layer. Now, I'm not talking about deep psychological healing or wounds.
Yeah.
But it's really, what is the code for confidence? What is the code for authority? What is the code for empathy? And how do, if we can understand that language, we can better communicate who we are. So what I do in brand strategy is we figure out what kind of a brand they are from an archetypical perspective. Are they the like, ooh, exclusive, I want to be you, I want to date you? Are they the everyday for everyone? Are they the enviable, curious, different, new, novel, artist, creative? Are they the, think about a brand, no matter where they land, it's a completely different look, feel, model representation, font, color, and just go down the line. So most brands start at like a logo and a color palette.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the last place you are.
You have to define everything else first.
Exactly. You have to figure out the positioning. You have to figure out. And then the second thing you said, which was brilliant, is the concept of customer research. And that's what anthropology comes in handy. So we figure out our strategy based on the market, the industry, we really do our research.
Right.
And then we go to the customer and we figure out their patterns, their psychographics, their shopping behavior, their influence purchasers, their preferences. And not only do we do it in like a survey or a focus group or whatever, but if we're building a new product that needs to make a couple million, we're testing along the way.
Yeah.
I'm giving a focus group 8 options of a product we could make that's of this price range that could get us where we need to go financially. Then we're going to test. Once we have the product, we're going to test different iterations, different vessels. Once we have our vessel type, then we're going to test different packaging, right? And then we're going to test different coloring. And the company and the strategist and the researcher, like, we're deciding the strategy.
Right.
But we're just showing it in different fonts or colors.
Right.
Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
we've pre-proven those fonts and colors.
Right.
They all are signaling that
Something.
deeper emotional vibe
Connect.
message. Because ultimately, just like, people don't really remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
that's kind of what a brand is. A brand is something that people begin to recognize when they go to it multiple times. We're talking, the research is between 7 and 11 different iterations on different platforms for it to really stick. And then the feeling they have is the same every time. And that's when your brand signals match, and that's when someone trusts you. It's the same thing with the speaker. If my resume is amazing and I'm introduced on stage and then I come up and I'm like, hi, yeah, my name's Chelsea, and I'm questioning and I'm shy and I'm unnervous, they don't match.
Yeah.
You don't trust that I run a big business
Yeah.
or that I have a lot of education, right?
Yeah.
If I'm, hey, I want to talk today about something that's really close to my heart, you don't believe me.
Yeah.
I'm doing a dominance posture.
Yeah.
I'm flicking my leg. I have my legs open, right? Versus, this thing is really hard to talk about. You believe me. So people are constantly looking at that presentation layer for do things match or do they mismatch? And when they don't mismatch, it's all unconscious. We feel like we don't trust that person. It makes us uncomfortable. When they match, we trust them more. We think they're more authentic, right? And so it's kind of understanding that.
Those subtle things which you wouldn't even know that it's something is not right. People understand that something is not right, which is what doesn't make them trust them, right?
Yes.
Okay. I see that.
And I think because it's so hard for creatives nowadays, just the way the market is, because I've been in the world for a decade, that people are just trying to not pay artists, not pay creatives, not pay designers. And so they're shaving off the strategy part of design, which is testing all that stuff, right? And so then it's just, well, here's 4 designs the design team loves. Oh, great. I'm the executive. I'll choose one. Yeah. But to save money, they've shaved off the strategy
that goes into it.
And so if we are trying to convey a certain emotion, there's colors and fonts and lines and visuals and headshots and outfits and jewelry to convey that. And I work with some great brands. One I'll call out is Grande Cosmetics. They're in Sephora. And we did a great rebrand together. And we really thought about every signal, every color, every shape. We had to convey legacy, but also new and innovative. And they were really collaborative as a team, and they understood that process.
Oh, nice.
And their reshoots will blow you away. It communicates every signal we wanted.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just the difference between showing up for a photo or showing up to teach a class or give a presentation or putting out a website or a brand and doing that strategy part beforehand so that everything people can visually see matches what you're saying.
Makes sense, totally. Thank you for that short masterclass, I would say.
It was a great question, and I want to make sure I get that recording because that was a good description.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So this podcast is called Portraits of Strength, right? And personally, I feel there are various different definitions of strength based on who you're talking to. So what's your definition of strength?
It has changed over time. I used to envision it as perfection, right? But we do have this scripture in my culture, which is your strengths will become your weaknesses and your weaknesses will become your strengths.
Oh, wow.
And there's also a lot of, academic philosophy and psychology on this about shadow self and your shadow side and integration, right? And so the older I am, my definition of strength is someone who can be completely honest. And I don't mean that in a cruel way, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I mean completely honest with themselves.
Authentic self.
And obviously you're going to change depending on the context, but how close someone is to that authentic self, and especially consistently across different contexts, that to me is someone who's strong. And I immediately see it and I'm like, okay, this person knows who they are. They're confident. They trust themselves. And you leak your emotions with your body language and your voice. You leak your, perspective with how you dress and your hair and your clothes. So people are always just communicating millions of things. And so you can see it. You can see it. And so that's, in my opinion, that ability to be honest with oneself and show up that way with everyone, whether it's gas station, attendant or the love of your life, give people the gift of your best self.
Yeah.
And how many more lives would you make better that day? Especially because we know every interaction can give someone a placebo effect or a nocebo effect. So you're making them feel better or worse anyway.
Yeah.
So someone who can be like authentically themselves and very happy, that to me is like my ideal version of strength.
And that's awesome. A different perspective, totally. What or who would you say is the source of your strength?
That's a good question. I would have to say my daughter. So I always wanted to be a mother. I was very sick the whole 40 weeks, and she was over, and she's only 6 pounds. So I had the disease or whatever where you throw up 10 times a day.
Yeah.
And so it was just like excruciating, and I didn't have the most nurturing partner. I was the one who was kind of the mom and took care of things. 'Cause I had a bunch of younger siblings. I was, but when I was incapacitated, I just was very, very, very sick. And then I've been a single mom most of her life. And so she has been I would do anything for her. I would scrub toilets. I would go get a job tomorrow and be your next waitress. Like, she has made me hustle. I want her to have a better life than I had. I want her to get the good that I got, but not the bad.
Yeah.
And when I put myself in a situation where I'm weak, I think, what would I want from my kid? And I always choose the right thing. So when I'm in that mother mode, that's, in my opinion, my best self. And so I think that is how, when I want to make myself strong,
Yeah.
that's kind of the mode I put myself in. And when I'm in that mode, I am my most gracious. I am my most compassionate. I am my most wise, right? I always take the time to help my kid and make sure she knows she's loved. But also, these things have to get done,
Yep.
and I take that job seriously. And I think, if you're wondering, how do I feel strong? Put yourself in mama mode and mother yourself here a little bit. And it's not, if you have a good mom, it's not it doesn't grow from criticism.
No.
Mothering grows from nurturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally relate because that's what I process it through. It's my daughter. It's like every time I'm stuck or I'm stuck with a decision, right? It's like, okay, what do I want my daughter to learn? Or what do I want to teach her? I go into that perspective and make a decision. That always kind of centers me. Because, as you said, it's the same thing. It's I hustle so hard because I want to give her every possible opportunity to become her true self.
Yeah. With no constraint.
With no constraints.
Yeah.
Yes, I want her to learn. I have to be honest. I am privileged to, have that good education, that good upbringing. But also, these came with restrictions when I was growing up, right? So I want to be able to, as you said, I totally relate because I want her to learn all the good and also learn about the bad so that she knows that it is bad kind of a thing.
She doesn't have to go through it.
Exactly.
I think that's the ultimate thing that connects all parents is we just don't want them to go through what we went through. And we may fuck up in other ways.
I mean,
but
truly, it's really difficult not to fuck up.
In these 5 things, I'm going to do it better.
Agreed. Totally.
But she does know she's unconditionally loved. And our house is calm and peaceful, and it's a joy. And so that to me is a win. That's what makes me happy. That's what fuels me. But I have given her it's a joke, but I have given her one constraint because she knows I'll drive the getaway car. I'm just that mom. I got your back no matter what.
Yep.
But I said, you can't become a stripper or a sister missionary. Either extreme is not allowed. You can't be in a cult And you can't like sell your body for money.
Yeah.
I support both people who do that, and I think are some very empowered women that own their sexuality, and are able to commodify it in an interesting way. So I have open and liberal views about sex workers. However, for my kid, I want her to be able to use that creative mind of hers, and I don't want it to get trapped or exploited.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great framework, if you will, right? Can you share a time when you had to rely on your own resilience and strength?
Yes, I'm still there. I think my lowest time was actually pretty recently, as like kind of the good girl, straight A student, like always tries to like follow the rules. I went through 2 divorces, kind of a marriage of incompatibility, and then, this one was the solution, and then learning, it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. And so just that house of bricks falling, as well as like my belief in my religion. So all of the things I believed in, love and religion, and then what the country's in. So it just felt like everything crashing. And so when you're alone, when you're on your own, I think it's really hard. But I've also learned to be able to vet things myself, make decisions myself, not be reliant on what other people think or what they think is happening, but like really understand for myself what is right and what is true. And I think when you're in an echo chamber, that's really hard. And I was one of those people who hated conflict. And like, I don't want to ruin the party or the drive or the date so I'm just going to be like, even though that hurt me, I'm just going to like let it go. And so, then I'd have resentment. I was kind of that person, keep the peace and adjust. And I think that I had to be alone to get that resilience, to get that grit, to stop shifting and to just be like, no, I want this. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And like give myself that power. I think that would probably be my answer. But I'm not all the way there. Like, I think I'm still on that journey.
Well, I think we're all in the work in progress category, no matter where you think you are, right? So I think it's a journey. And isn't that what life is?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's like, if it's a video game, you got to accumulate all those experiences.
Yep.
You can. That's another way to get like resilience, or how I'm starting to think, is try a new model of the world.
Yeah.
So one model's for simulations. Cool. Invent a story. Try it. We're in a video game. Great. My video character has to go through a lot of hard things to prepare for her big battle in the war, and then I'm like, okay, I feel strong. I had to go through that. Right. So it's okay to kind of retell your story in a way that helps you cope with the world. In fact, meaning is the one of the only things that every human across every time shares. In fact, that's how we know when people became human, is they started doing burial rites.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when we say they're official Homo sapiens. We did see this with Neanderthals too, but it's when they began to have these beliefs that were shared, and they began to kind of make meaning out of life. Wasn't just random. There was meaning. And humans are the meaning makers. And so you feel like, well, nothing's true. Well, yeah, sorry. But bright side, you get to make your own meaning.
Yeah.
And make it match who you are authentically, and your life will change.
Perfect.
So that was kind of my biggest hardship, was just realizing, as someone who really tried to get straight A's, tried to get degrees, prove that, I'm worthy and my voice is worthy, then I fail miserably twice. Like, that's, unless you've gone through it, you don't realize the shame.
Yeah.
So I think that's my lowest I've ever been, is just realizing, well, I don't want either of these relationships to continue.
But that is strength, right? Like,
However,
even like seeing or identifying that you don't want to continue and getting out of them. As a person who's done that, that takes loads of strength.
Yeah.
To even make that decision and stick to it.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and I think I'm just getting out of that now. I mean, we've talked before personally, but I think that really put me on a depression. And that's where I felt my weakest, is because I always at least had determination or enthusiasm, or I love my job, right? And I think it just put me in this apathetic depression of like, yeah.
But I'm glad to see you come out of it because I can clearly see that you are out as a fellow person who has gone through depression and that apathy stage of life. So that also takes a lot of strength.
So I don't have all the answers.
Oh, no, nobody does,
I've
right?
been through the fire, and I'm not on the way out, but I'm climbing my way out is how I look at it. But I've also had to restart my life multiple times.
Yeah.
And I think with that comes shame, but it also comes capability.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And like power and freedom and sovereignty. Like I make every decision in my life now. And before I would acquiesce to keep the peace or to not cause conflict, right?
Yeah.
Or not to be seen as too much, right? And there's a power that comes from when you live on your own and having that solidarity and like being able to make choices unencumbered by others that I think is necessary to anyone's growth. And most of us never get that.
Yep, totally agree. What do you think is the most common misconception that people have about being strong?
I'll give you an example that's really cute and sad. But one partner I had was quite abusive and would throw tantrums if he didn't get enough attention. And it was just like, why are you starting a fight? This is a beautiful moment. It was just like hard to deal with. And we were on this trip to France, and my sweet, sweet daughter, who had always had like curly brown hair, like, you know, picked this picture off Pinterest, was like, I want my hair to be this. It was like a sleek bob, bright fire engine red. And I was like, that is such a transition. And you want to do it in France where I don't even speak the language. And we're like, it's going to be impossible to find like I was just stressed about it because I'm like, this is our first major like total style change. What if she hates it? Like we're in the middle of, you know, so I was just like, I don't know if this is a good decision. And her dad and I both talked to her and she felt really strongly about it. And I was like, you know what? We both said, this isn't a boundary we need to keep. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's go for it. So we both said yes. She got it done. She looked amazing.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Amazing. She looked so different. She looked so cool. She looked so chic. And it started this journey for her where every few haircuts she like changes it up and wears different clothes, and she's really learning about style, and she gets compliments everywhere, and she kind of loves that she's showing off her unique perspective in the world, which from my from what I do, I'm like, go,
that's
girl.
Amazing.
Yeah. But as we were walking home after she got this bright red hairstyle, we were talking about strength. And I go, honey, you are so strong. Yeah. To just envision something and fight for it. Yeah. And like own it and be like, this is what I want. And like to convince others, like that takes a lot of strength. Definitely. And I don't know that I feel that strongly about many opinions that I'm willing to fight for it. Yeah. I'm kind of like, I kind of want to do this, but if you push back, I'll be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Right? Yeah. So I was just like, that's strong. She's like, I'm not strong. I wouldn't call myself strong. She's like, I'm not like that physically fit.
So she was thinking about physical strength.
Like I can't lift things. I can't run for a long time. Yeah. I can't. And I just stopped and looked at her, and I said, you know, this partner I had a perfect body, big muscles, was like super ripped. And I was like, would you say this person is physically strong? And she said, yeah. And I said, would you say this person is emotionally strong? And she's like, no. And I was like, and that's where you're stronger than someone in their mid-50s.
Oh, my God. That you taught her so nicely and so clearly. Yeah.
So that was a fun moment. And it was a moment for me, too. It was just on the spot where I realized, like, it's okay. There are areas where I'm super strong. And there's other areas where I'm super weak. Everyone has that. And it's the ability to like recognize that in yourself and others that I think will change the way that we interact with people.
That's amazing. Yeah. What advice would you give to people who struggle with being seen or heard?
Hesitancy to put yourself out there is usually a fear of other people's opinions, approval, judgments. And so that would be the first block. The first block is how it will be received. Even the speakers I train on the TED stage, I always say, like, that's the worst perspective you can have as a speaker is how are they thinking about me? Because it's just a mirror reflection loop of like approval seeking. So it's like, how am I looking? How am I walking? How am I moving? How am I appearing? Right? It's me, me, me. And so that doesn't connect with people's emotions. That doesn't connect with people's attention very well. And that's not going to impact like the how they think or change what their mindset is. And so I just tell people to invert that. When you get the role of teacher or speaker or leader, it is your duty to perform that role to the best of your ability. And part of that is keeping people's attention. And that means gestures. That means having cool slides. That means breaking it up every 30 seconds in where you stand and where you move. You know, your job is to show up and present the authority in which your role is. If I'm the leader and the professor, I walk in, hey class, sit down, everyone, we're going to get started. I want everyone's phones in the desk. You know I'm in charge. If I don't start the class this way, they feel like they have more power. Every teacher knows this, right? So we play these little social games all the time. And when you make it about me, 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 you're not playing it right. The way to play it is from their perspective. How do they want to feel? What do I want them to think? Oh, if I want them to respect me, and that's the biggest thing I want. I need to show up polished, clean, and competent. I'm going to wear something structured. I'm going to have a new haircut. I'm going to get that instant respect. If I want them to listen to me, I want authority, I'm going to have big body language. I'm going to show off my neck with a lot of distance between my head and shoulders. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to speak with a low voice. I'm going to have a cadence that people will eventually follow. Right? So if we begin to look at it kind of from their perspective, not like, oh, do they approve of me? But like, how am I coming across? What is my goal? And then curating yourself for that goal is very different than, oh, do they think I'm pretty? Does that make sense? Like if you're already worried about how you're coming across, if that's making you hesitate, then turn it more into a science. Try different styles that give you more power or authority. Begin to practice different body language, right? And don't just kind of throw your hands up like, oh, no one listens to me. Well, if you want that outcome, change the way you're showing up. You're moving, you're speaking, you're acting, the way you look. You can change all of those different things to cue exactly what you want.
That's an amazing perspective and learning, right? Like as you said, most people tend to think only from their points of view as to like, okay, am I coming across competent or am I being authoritative? But they fail to think about from the audience's perspective. That's a great perspective to have. So that's
and every speaker coach will give you the same advice. Is watch yourself, video yourself. Do it over and over. I tell people the reason I approach all my speaker training from like this biological perspective is because we are apes. We are great apes. We are biological organisms and we have these hardwired systems. Everyone releases nerves. Everyone. And sometimes it comes out with you being frozen. And sometimes it comes out with you being too much. And sometimes it comes out with you being aggressive. And sometimes you're fawning. But everyone releases emotions in the way that they communicate. And it's your job to really put your body in situations where you want to excel. You do not get nervous, talk fast, interrupt, TMI, in places where you feel safe and comfortable. So if you're not safe and comfortable, it's not that you're not being authentic. It's that like, okay, I don't understand all the rules in this system, or I'm not being treated the way I want, and something needs to change. You know, so figure out the nerves, and that takes you getting on the dot. That takes you speaking at. I've done this nursing homes and middle schools, and just getting your body used to it until you can come at a place where you're more in control than your nerves are. And once you reach that place, you can read the room.
Yeah.
That's what makes being a professor so fun is it's a small classroom. And every teacher, every professor that really loves it, you get this high when you're teaching a class, almost like a comedian.
Yeah.
Where like you have them all in the pocket of your hand and you're telling them this cool story. You know there's a cool ending or you make them laugh. And it's just like you know you're teaching them in the moment. It's not some boring lecture. You know, they're actually learning, and it's this wonderful high that you get. That's how it should feel on stage. Instead of I'm looking at my notes, I'm looking at my slides, I'm like, hey, everyone listen to me. It should be you should be reading. Are they bored? Are they focused? Do they need more information on that? Do they need less? Did someone do something funny I can comment on? That's why everyone loves comedians nowadays. Yeah. They're the closest we can get to kind of authentic communication. We don't trust politicians. We no longer trust doctors. We don't trust, you know? So I think in the face of not being able to trust authority, we're really in this country trying to trust authenticity. And when you're responsive with the crowd in the moment, fully present, we get to see kind of more of the real you. Yeah. And when you're kind of looking above the heads of the crowd and, you know, pretending they're naked and all the tricks that speakers get because they're nervous, that's just putting you back in yourself. And the only way that like I can connect with 500 people is if I'm constantly paying attention to what they're actually like emoting and signaling. Yeah. That's what a good conversation is. Like if I'm over talking, I can read it. And if I'm not reading it, I'm lacking that ability to read the room. Yeah. It's never TMI if you're getting, you're doing it. Like these are responsive. I know I can keep going. If I'm not getting that, then you know it's my problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you're constantly, whether it's a big group or a small group, you're constantly reading and responding to each other's cues. And if you're failing to respond when someone's talking, they don't think you care. Yeah. They think you're disinterested. If you're failing to respond to them when you're talking, it feels like a lecture. It feels like they're getting in trouble. No wonder no one listens when you talk. You're not watching them when you talk. Yeah. Right? And so that's kind of the ultimate stage I think we want to get people to is the ability to communicate their ideas, large crowds, small crowds, one-on-one, in an authentic, responsive way that's not so practiced or performed, that's more authentic and real. Right. And like that message is going to resonate to more people louder, faster, stronger than anything you prepared for hours in written format.
That's awesome. Something new I always learn with conversations with you. So what is the one ritual or practice that you do every day that helps you stay grounded?
It's a great question. I love to do my gratitude. So I have this beautiful view and I have these birds that come eat at my bird feeders. And so I try to go up there every day and talk about 10 things I'm grateful for. I have, there's a lot of science behind that. There's a lot of woo-woo behind that. But there's enough from multiple cultures, multiple time periods, different records. There's something about positive thinking, positive expectation, manifestation, the secret, gratitude that really does impact the rest of your biochemistry. So I think if I had to say like that's a 10 for me. Okay. Meditation's great. I just don't do it as often. Like I still love it when I do it. I still think it impacts my day. I think it's amazing. My scientific response to meditation is that most people are in the past or the future. It's very hard for us to get in the present. And it doesn't matter. I've studied meditation practices all over the world. And at the end of the day, it's to get you in the present moment completely. Yeah. And when you're in the present moment completely, there are no lions chasing you. That's getting your nervous system calm so you can be more authentic, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier. So that's also like a 10 for me. And I'll give one more. I have learned through my explorations that I'm also kind of goofy and funny and playful. And if I don't have that,
Yes, I can attest to that.
if I don't have that in my friendships,
Yeah.
like if I don't have that in my relationships, if I don't have that in my life, if it just feels like kind of boring and there's nothing fun and we're not like, telling funny stories or doing something fun, then it kind of just feels like more hopeless or more cynical.
Yeah.
And so I try to add fun. So like I love to go see comedy. Like I try to do funny, silly adventures with my kid, and I try to create funny moments with friends and just get people out of adulting and play a little bit. I think that is also my version of strength, which is authenticity. I think being playful gets you quickest to your most authentic self. So and even comedians say this, that being playful before you get on stage, telling your friend joke or whatever, will put you in the body language and verbal communication that you have with friends. And that's exactly what we want on stage, is to gift the people the gift of your real self, even though they haven't earned it, right? Without conditions, I'm just gifting you me.
Yeah.
That's when people fall in love with speakers.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's do a small change in pace here.
Okay.
We're going to do a rapid fire kind of a thing.
Okay.
To end the podcast episode with.
I'm excited.
What's your favorite book?
I have 2, nonfiction and fiction.
Okay.
So the fiction is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas.
Yes.
I love it for so many reasons. But I love the story, which I'll tell you really quickly. The story was he got paid kind of per page, and it was printed in this newspaper. And so he specifically made it incredibly long and made millions and millions of dollars at a time when people were very racist and didn't know he was black. And just made millions of dollars. I just loved that hustle. And it's such a great story.
Yeah.
And it's a strategist brain, which is there's hundreds of characters. They're all intersecting throughout the entire thousands of pages, but they all come back around and they all have different redemption arcs or villain arcs. And it's just so complicated. It's almost like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, like these complicated story that I just like fell in love with all of Alexander Dumas and kind of plot-based stories.
Nice.
And then nonfiction is my favorite science writer is Bill Bryson. He's just comedic. He's informative. He's fun. He adds the goofy to science, which I think we need.
Yeah.
Because science is the most interesting subject in the world, in my opinion. And like very few people know about it.
Yeah.
And so I think he just does a masterful job. And it's, I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to get the title wrong. Everything in the Universe. We'll figure out what it is.
Sure. I can.
Oh, it's my favorite book, and I got it wrong. I buy it for other people. I can't believe I can't get it. But it's all about the history of the universe of science, from the Big Bang to an atom to a quark to human evolution to civilization. It's just a really beautiful history of science. Maybe it is called the history of science.
It's okay. We'll figure out the right one, and I'll put it in the show notes.
I'm so sorry. He's my favorite author, and I forgot. But yes, those are my favorite 2 books that I think are beautiful and complex.
Okay. What's your favorite song?
I like happy energy songs.
That's a shocker.
I'm so excited. Let's get physical. Olivia Newton-John.
What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, probably Laurel Thatcher Ulrich.
Okay.
Well-behaved women seldom make history.
Okay. That's a good blooper right there.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
What's your favorite movie?
I love The Fugitive.
Ooh,
Old
Harrison
Ford.
Ford.
Indiana Jones, the early ones.
Yep.
I love action, adventure, suspense.
Okay.
Very different than what you would expect, maybe.
All right. I actually had no expectations. Okay, that's good to know.
Like a good plot.
Yeah. What's your greatest fear?
Bears.
Where did that come from?
No, seriously, it's bears.
Okay.
Not on my day-to-day. Like, obviously, my greatest fear is a man will hurt me or harm me because of statistics. I think every woman feels that way, especially living as a single mom. Like, you're always, like, kind of, like, looking over your shoulder.
Yep.
So if I had to say one thing I've always kind of feared, even since I was a little girl, when someone, like, followed me in the store and exposed himself. I was like, oh, like I gotta look out.
Yeah.
So the man versus bears, like in my daily life, probably men, but I am also terrified of bears. I went camping around all over with one of my partners, and we were right by bear tracks, and I've encountered bears, and I've read about bear stories, and Bill Bryson has a really good book about bears and a long walk about the Appalachian Trail. But bears are just scary. I think they're the most scary thing in North America to encounter. And you can't really, I'm one of those people who buys those survival guides. And like I have a survival plan in every case. And I like have a survival plan if I ever encounter a bear. And like of all my survival plans, that one scares me the most. Like I'm just going to be dead.
Okay.
It probably won't let me even get a punch in.
Okay. What's the most courageous thing you've done?
Probably organizing all that Mormon feminism stuff and kind of standing up against my culture for what I knew was right, making it more effective, even though we knew we were going to get repercussions.
Okay. What's your philosophy of life?
I think humanity's salvation as a species is going to be working together globally, fixing this life solutions. Instead of all the time, effort, and energy we spend on what happened before or where are we going. So my radical take on the world is that whether it's on purpose or by default or an anatomical problem, no one has ever figured out where we came from and where we go after we die. Sorry. They're all mythologies.
Yeah.
And some are more probable than the others. And the scientific method doesn't explain it all. But with all of that knowledge, we're still fighting these same battles.
Yeah.
Instead, in my mind, it's inverted. It's for some reason we don't know. So let's stop investing all this time, energy, focusing on it. Let's focus on what we do know. We do know the anthropological civilization of man. We do know how our bodies interact with modern environments.
Yeah.
We do know how people can learn how to communicate and be diplomatic. We do know how culture works. We have so much social science. We have so much human behavioral science. If we invested all of our work into uniting and solving the problems together, we have enough resources, time, energy, money to make it happen. And so to me, the only thing stopping it is all of these divisions by tribes of mythology, which are religious beliefs grounded in improbable, in my mind, that any one of them is the one right way. And so let's stop bickering.
Yeah.
You can all be right. I give you your ability to be right about that. But let's all focus now on like how to survive as a species for the next 100,000 years.
Yeah.
You know, how to like protect us from AI and protect people's jobs and livelihoods now, not when it's supposedly universal income. No, all of us need jobs now.
Yeah.
Right? So like, let's start focusing on this life and the science we have for what we know. And I think the entire world would be better.
That's a great way to look at it. And yeah. Well, that was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad we had this conversation, and it's always fun to have, chat with you, Chelsea. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And there you have it, audience. So the one thing that I loved and learned from Chelsea today is that being authentic is its own kind of superpower. So strive to be authentic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.